Welcome. Today is May 1st, 2017. Happy birthday to my youngest daughter, my sweet, sweet Alize. Happy birthday today. My daughter's 2 years old. And today is episode 10, Why the Lack of Principles Gave Us North Korea, the Failure of Trump, and Censorship. You are listening to Counterculture. I'm your host, Aaron Lujan. This is my 10th episode experimenting with this podcast thing. I mentioned about 9 episodes ago, this is something I had been wanting to do for many years. And I finally woke up one morning a couple months back and said, I'm going to do it. And here we are, 10 episodes later. It's all about consistency, right, guys? Everything in life, every success goes back to consistency. And I just want to be consistent. Definitely, my podcast is nowhere near the size of those that you may listen to, but that's okay, because don't think lowly of humble beginnings. The mustard seed can grow a very large tree. So why the lack of principles gave us North Korea, the failure of Trump, and the censorship of truth. What I wanted to do today, and actually I'm looking at my phone right now because I want to see if I can actually share. Oh yeah, I can. I'm able to share. No, I'm not. See, what I'm trying to do is share it on my personal page, but I can't. So it's okay. We'll share it later. What I wanted to do today, guys, and thank you for listening, is talk about this idea of principle, having principles, and tie that into some of the biggest news stories and the biggest threats that we're experiencing today, which is North Korea, the failure of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump, and the censorship of truth. We are underway of a purge of quote-unquote conservatives, American conservative voices in this country. And it's all tied in, and that's what I want to get into today. So I think to start things off, it would be best to define what principles are and what is principle. And I'm drinking black coffee, guys. Once you go black, you don't go back. Principles. A fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior, or for a chain of reasoning. So some synonyms: truth, proposition, concept, idea, fundamentals, essentials, ground rules. So what are your principles? What are my principles? I think they serve us well. They serve us in decision making, like when we go vote. They serve our leaders when they make policy decisions. It's very important that we live in a society that individuals have principles. Martin Luther King said, if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. That's a bold statement from one of our greatest leaders, one of my heroes. He's actually the hero of my hero. So let's talk about that, guys. What are some of your principles? What are some of my principles? Well, some of my principles, some non-negotiables, is that I value life from conception all the way to the gas chamber, all the way to the electric chair, all the way to death, and everywhere in between, all the way to the coffin. So I believe that life has inherent value, and there's nothing that can take away someone's life, or no one else has a right to take another's life away. That's one of my principles. Another one of my principles is I believe that it's important to treat others the way you want to be treated. So that's one of my guiding principles. I fail regularly. However, at least I know the ground rules. I know where to go back to. I'm unlike others who question that or don't give thought to it and just treat other people poorly. Some other principles, when you talk about policy, I'm anti-war, and I believe in, just war and self-defense. But generally speaking, I believe in non-aggression foreign policy, that, we as an American living in the United States, my government, my nation doesn't have the right to impose itself on other nations. That's one of my guiding principles when I view the world from a foreign policy standpoint. I also, one of the principles that I have is small government. I think, you read the founders and they talk about how to preserve liberty and how to ensure prosperity. And one of the key arguments that they make is, in order for that to happen, you must have small government. It must be very limited. It must be held to a chain, because large central governments have a tendency to turn tyrannical. So I have this principle, this guiding principle, that governments should be small. What are some other principles that I could share with you? I believe love is the most important thing. To love others the way, to love others, and I was going to say to treat others the way you want to be treated, which is like love. Do I fail? Absolutely, but it's one of my guiding principles. So, when individuals in power have a lack of principles, they can be a danger to others. And what we're witnessing right now in North Korea, and the failure of Trump, which I'll get into in a moment, and this campaign of censorship of a certain voices in this country, all go back to individuals having a lack of principles. So, Trump has demonstrated a lack of principles prior to him getting elected, which is the reason why, as we've approached his 100th day in office, which was Saturday, we can all now look back on his 100 days and say that Donald J. Trump is a failure of a president, and I'll prove that here in a moment. A failure to his base, a failure to those who got him elected and voted for him, simply because he lacked principles. I have a video on YouTube right now. It's titled "The Unofficial Documentary of Donald J. Trump for President." And I published this prior to the election to warn people, particularly conservatives. Donald J. Trump is far from a conservative person, and he's not to be trusted because he lacks integrity. He lacks principles, and there's a lot of correlation between integrity and principles. And it's not a very popular video, probably because the audio is garbage. I don't know how to make videos very well, but it's okay if you guys can bear with the audio. I point out the fact that Donald Trump was bad on guns. He claimed to be pro-gun. Before the election, Donald Trump wanted gun restrictions. And then when he got elected, he, as of now, being consistent, but that's yet to be told. He was for partial birth abortions prior to him getting elected, and then he was, in the election season, pro-life. He promoted universal health care, a socialist form of health care that Obama and the Democrats fought so hard for, and also campaigned on repealing Obamacare. And instead, once he got into office, he now wants to offer a replacement. And then since the replacement failed, we're now stuck with Obamacare. Again, a lack of principles. I was arguing with people, if you want a true conservative, you need to elect somebody that's consistent, someone that's been on the same side ideologically. Now, do people have heart changes? Sure, but if you're electing the President of the United States, and 5 minutes before they run for office, they had a completely different ideology and worldview, that's very concerning, and that's why I warned people of Trump. Another thing was his personal life. He demonstrated a lack of integrity, which obviously the attack dog media chained onto very, very tightly. That, multiple wives, some of the comments that he had made, things that the way that he conducted himself in his personal life exhibited a lack of principles and a lack of personal integrity. Do people have failures? Yes, but if people show a consistent pattern of that, it would cause someone to believe that this person lacks integrity. Before he was elected, we talked about the gun restrictions. Before he was elected, he was for open borders, and he was opposed to deporting illegal aliens out of this country. Election season time came. He was then very pro borders, pro law and order with regards to immigration. Here we are in his 100th day. There has been no construction of the wall. There is not anything to indicate that anyone's truly ever getting deported. There is no huge task force that he promised. There has been some loosening of laws with regards to ICE, but I don't believe that Trump in his first 100 days has given his base and his voters any confidence that he's going to keep his promises that he made on the election, in the election. Trump has taken us to the precipice of World War III. One of the things that we saw recently is Trump, not recently, prior to the election, he was claiming to be, I'm anti-Iraq war. I believe that we should not intervene in Syria, that it would be a mistake for us to go into Syria. He was presented with what I would argue propaganda. Even if it wasn't propaganda, the Constitution does not requires that there be a congressional approval to go to war. That was not done. He promised law and order and constitutional government. In his inauguration speech, he said, we're going to be a country ruled by law and order. Well, I believe that should apply to 59 Tomahawk missiles falling and raining down on Syria. He should have followed the law and had order with regards to sending our men and women to war, because we do have boots in the ground now in Syria, which constitutionally is illegal. So he's brought us on the precipice of World War III when he promised that he would be a peace president. He said he was going to drain the swamp. Remember that? Since we now are 100 days plus into this, we can see his administration has been filled with Goldman Sachs bankers, Council on Foreign Relations globalists, New World Order Zionists and warmongers, the folks during the George W. Bush years. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. So he basically packed his campaign, his administration, pretty much with the same people that W had, Baby Bush, the Wall Street crew, the what Gerald Celente would call the shiny shoe boys. So much for draining the swamp. Big disappointment. Remember during the campaign in one of the debates, he looked Hillary Clinton in the eye and pointed at her and said, when I get elected, my attorney general will be instructed to investigate you and to press charges against you. Crickets? Have we even heard anything about Hillary Clinton getting prosecuted? Big disappointment, right? Where's the law and order there? A lot of people voted for him just to see that witch go to prison. Didn't happen, did it? At one point, he called Julian Assange a hero. And now he is a man whose, quote, crime needs to get prosecuted. All he did was publish the truth that he received from whistleblowers about the criminal conduct of the United States government. Plus, Assange isn't even an American. He's an Australian. So how in the world, Trump, are you going to prosecute a non-American citizen? And to make things worse, and I'm going to leave it at that with my boy Trump, he's not my boy. He's killed more innocent men, women, and children in the last month in Syria, Iran, North Korea, and Russia and China combined. You take the Chinese government, the Russian government, the North Korean government, the Iranian government, the Syrian government, all of the innocence that those governments have perpetrated on people pales in comparison to the carnage that this U.S. president has overseen. We now have neoconservative Republicans like Lindsey Graham saying, he's my dude. He's my dude. Really sad. I mean, Lindsey Graham is possessed, man. And anybody who endorses Lindsey Graham, Katie bar the door. Anyways, if you guys are interested, Google democracy. No, don't Google it. DuckDuckGo, which is an alternative search engine, by the way. DuckDuckGo. Search engine. Search for Democracy Now! Article 1,000 civilians killed. Read it up there. Don't have time for it on this podcast. Trump opponents on the left. Now, of course, does the media hate Trump? Yeah. Does the left hate Trump? Yeah. Look how dumb they are. If they really wanted to achieve their political victory of obstructing and removing this president from power, which they clearly do, all they have to do is have some principles. If the left would revisit the principles that they avowed way back in 2000, if you remember, they were marching against war in 2004, I think it was. They were marching in the streets of all these cities opposing George W. Bush's Iraq war, which I agreed with. I miss my anti-war left. I miss them a lot. Where are you guys now? Because if you guys have a political goal of removing Trump from power or obstructing his presidency, why don't you just simply get some principles like law and order and constitution and justice and pursue the illegalities and the constitutional violations that this president has committed and persecute him? Create a case for impeachment. He didn't declare war. The abuse of executive order. I mean, there's a lot of ammunition, but this is an example of the left not having principles, because what they choose to do is focus on these football issues and these frivolous things, and they shoot themselves in the foot. They have the golden egg right there in front of them. They could go after the president under legal and constitutional reasonings, justification, but do not do that because they lack principles. Obviously, we know that. The left is a giant heap of contradiction and mental illness. So that's what we see with a lack of principles. Even the left cannot achieve their political goals because they lack principles. So what does this mean for the future? Well, everything's on the table now. We've already gotten close to World War III. We're on the precipice of potentially what I would argue a police state, a dictatorial system in America. Because if Trump is willing to go after Syria without constitutional authority, if he's willing to go after Julian Assange, who has not committed a crime and is not even a U.S. citizen, what's to stop this guy from instituting a police state, especially if the left unleashes their social justice warriors and creates complete chaos in the streets? And then once we have the police state, how many more minutes are we away from a dictatorial system? Which leads me to my next news issue, North Korea. Kim Jong-un. 안녕하세요. 감사합니다. That's hello, how are you doing? Thank you very much. That's all I know in Korean. I used to live in Koreatown. So when I go to my barber, I say, 감사합니다. And they laugh and smile at me. Oh, my daughter just showed up. It's like BBC. Hey, baby.
Hi.
Hi. Can you go upstairs, please? I love you. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's the oldest one. And put on some socks. This is not fake news, guys. This is real independent journalism happening right now. This is not Chris Cuomo on ABC with makeup. Trust me. North Korea. After the Korean War, we had 3 generations living under the most oppressive, tyrannical dictatorship the world's ever seen. The horrors that are happening in Korea would break your heart. It is a modern day atrocity to the levels of the Third Reich and Hitler's Germany in the 30s. Christians have a 6-month lifespan in North Korea. There is no freedom whatsoever. You stand and you applaud and you worship Kim Jong-un because he is God in that country. And they're taught how to think from the time that they're a baby. One woman escaped into China. They found her less than 100 pounds and 4 feet tall, completely hunched over. These people are being starved to death. Giant rape rooms where they just rape women all day for sport. Torture that I can't even begin to describe on this podcast because this is a family-oriented program. Bottom line is North Korea is a hellhole. Even the corporate media calls it a hermit state. Hermit state? What are they hiding? Obviously, lack of principles from Kim Jong-un and the dictatorial regime. But what about the people? And again, I'm not here to bash on the North Korean people. Many of them are victims. But 3 generations of oppression and dictatorship, where are the principles? Where's the will to fight? Where is the revolution like we had in 1776 in America? Or the Mexican Revolution when they overthrew the French and the Spanish? Or these other revolutions like the one in France hundreds of years ago, and all the revolutions that happened throughout history? It was because people had principles. The principle of wanting to be free, the principle of liberty, and the willingness to defend and die for liberty if so threatened. I carry guns. I moved to Colorado to be able to defend myself and my family, unlike in California, where in California they tell me, you cannot defend your family because if we catch you doing so, we're going to put you in jail. Well, goodbye then, California. I don't want to be a part of that state anymore. Where are your principles? I moved my family here and I'm on air defending free speech because of those principles. And unfortunately, the North Koreans, over the course of 3 generations, haven't found any sort of success and I'm sure there's been a few that have tried, and God bless them, but generally speaking, since the 50s, we're now in 2017. I don't know when the Korean War ended, in the late 40s? I don't know, I'm not a historian, but it's been at least approximately 60 years, and there has not been an overthrow. There has not been a revolution or any suggestion that there's ever been any sort of fight to happen. But that is happening all across the world. Here's some interesting news, guys, that you may not know about. Secession movements and revolutions right now are happening across the globe, but if you pay attention to corporate media, you're not going to know that. Currently, there are 42 separatist movements. Now, separatist movement is another way of describing a revolution and uprising, political factions within groups, within nations disagreeing with the current regimes and choosing to break away, similar to the way we broke away from England in the late 1700s. There's 42 separatist movements underway in the continent of Africa right now, which, by the way, is undergoing one of the worst famines across Central Africa in the history of the continent. Have you heard anything about that lately? Well, people are getting hungry. And when people get hungry, they don't care about anything else but getting food, and they will fight whoever they got to fight to eat. 68 movements in Asia, 107 in Europe, 16 in North America, 18 in Oceania, and 9 in South America. One of the most notable ones in Venezuela against the government, the socialist government, hashtag feel the burn. Hey, socialist Bernie Sanders followers, why don't you pay attention to what's going on in Venezuela? Is that what you guys really want for your family? Your baby dying in your arm and you can see their rib cage? Is that what you want, Bernie Sanders supporter? These millennials, man, know your history. Right now, the Venezuelan government are shooting citizens for uprising. They're uprising because they can't eat. They're standing in line 6, 8, 10 hours a day to get food rations. People are literally running into gunfire to try to escape this country. Political candidates are in jail right now in Venezuela. Okay? There's a lot going on, guys, because people have principles. There are hundreds of separatist movements, 260 active separatist movements going on right now. May 1st, 2017. You look across the globe, 260 movements that are what? Guess rooted in? Principles. The right to life, the right to liberty, the right to pursuit of happiness. They have principles. Excuse me. Just here in the United States, just in the last few years, let's look at all the ones that are happening. Have you guys heard of hashtag CalExit? All those California liberals are so upset at the election of Trump that they now want to break away from the union. Goodbye. Go, California. We don't want you anymore, actually, anyways. If you guys want to have your own state, in my opinion, I agree with you. Not even because I want you, but because you guys I believe you guys are better off without the U.S. It also happened in 2010 in California, Alaska 2006 and 2007. It happened in Florida in 2015, Georgia in 2009, Hawaii in 11 and 17, Montana in 08, New Hampshire in 12 and in 2017, Oregon in 2016, South Carolina in 2010, Texas had separatist movements in the late 90s, in 2009 and in 2017, Vermont in 2003, and in between 2005 and 2007, and in 2017. This does not include the secession movement currently underway among the Lakota Indians in Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. George Washington once said, "Human rights can only be assured among a virtuous people. The general government can never be in danger of degenerating into a monarchy, an oligarchy, an aristocracy, or a despotic or oppressive form, so long as there is any virtue, underlying virtue, in the body of the people." George Washington. Benjamin Franklin said, "Only a virtuous, underlying virtuous." Everybody say virtuous. Virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become more corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. Like Kim Jong-un, like Donald Trump. The liberals were right. You know, one thing I'll give him? He was a populist. He rode on the coattails of nationalism. And that is kind of scary. Because nationalism, populism, those aren't principles. That's just getting caught up in the fervor. Let's be honest, Donald Trump won because he was running against Lucifer. I'm just going to tell you who I voted for, guys. I was going to vote for the libertarian, the former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson. Why? Because I had principles. And you know what? I guess this is a moment of repentance. I abandoned my principles because I was so freaked out by Hitler and just the demonic witch that she is. And still believe that if we would have been under a Hillary Clinton rule right now, man, I probably wouldn't be on this podcast. And I mean that literally, guys. You guys, I don't think most people listening to this podcast realize how bad and how quickly things would have gotten bad had Hillary Clinton won. So what did I do? I voted for Trump. I know. Forgive me. I'm sorry. It was a defense move, guys. And you know what? I guess I could argue it was because of principle. Like, I was so freaked out by Hillary. And after, soul searching and talking to my dad for hours, I came to the conclusion, like, my vote's gonna be thrown away if I vote for Gary Johnson, and I put my checkbox in for the real estate guy, and I don't know if I can say I regret it. Maybe I kind of do because I didn't stick purely 100% as a purist to my principles, but that's what happened, guys. Which leads me to my next and last news article or news story that ties into having lack of principles, which is censorship, and the censorship that is currently underway of conservatives. Have you guys noticed a trend lately, particularly with conservative news personalities, aka Bill O'Reilly, aka Milo Yiannopoulos from Breitbart, or as I mentioned, Bill O'Reilly, Fox News, Tohmi Lahren of The Blaze. Is it Tohmi? I don't know. The blonde chick. Alex Jones of InfoWars. Have you guys noticed a pattern among all those people that I just mentioned? They're all getting fired and they're all losing their jobs. Is it all a coinkydink? Hashtag coinkydink? Forgive me if you guys can hear me sipping on that coffee. So if you guys remember Milo Yiannopoulos, the quote-unquote alt-right leader, the what he's called nationalist crazy guy, right? The gay quote-unquote conservative personality, was uninvited to CPAC. He was supposed to head CPAC and was uninvited, and he was actually fired from Breitbart, and his book deal was canceled because he made some comments almost as an endorsement of pedophilia. And obviously a lack of principles. Why would you make that comment, Milo? Why would you say something? I'm not even going to quote. I was thinking about quoting him, and then I read the article, and I'm like, dude, I can't even read this. This is so bad. So what I ended up deciding to do, so he obviously had a lack of principles because of the comments that he made. And as a result, he played right into the hands of his political enemies, was uninvited as a speaker to CPAC. Hold on one second, my daughter's back. You need to go upstairs right now. Listen to Papa. Go upstairs, please. Thank you. Sorry. Have you guys seen that YouTube video of the anchor on BBC where he's on air and the kids come in? You didn't get to see her, but She keeps coming in, and my wife apparently does. Oh, she's crying now. I'm a bad guy. Now I feel bad. But I'm actually more upset with my wife. Why isn't she? Anyways, I'm not upset with her. She's good. She's probably working hard. Principles. So Milo was uninvited from CPAC, lost his job at Breitbart. He had a multi-million-dollar deal with a major book publisher, lost his book deal. Tohmi Lahren went on The View. I think that's ABC, right? She's the millennial, attractive blonde that is a host, the Blaze. She was actually kind of like the signature anchor of the Blaze. And she said, yeah, I've been conservative all the years, but guess what, guys? I'm pro killing babies. I am pro murder of infants in the womb, which is obviously not a conservative principle. Fired from the Blaze. Lost her influence. Where is she now? I don't know. I Googled her this morning and I saw her in some red carpet acting trendy. Bill O'Reilly, Fox News. Everybody knows. The king of conservative cable. The Fox News franchise, 20 plus years. Couldn't keep his belt on, apparently. Sexual harassment charges. This guy had already settled out of court previously. I remember when he was beefing with Ludacris, because I think Pepsi had a deal with Ludacris. And then right after that, it was like, or right before or right after, it was all these rape charges. And, you know, if you're going to be on my show, you're going to have to come up to my hotel room and all this craziness. And didn't get him fired back then, but now all of a sudden, the same week that Tohmi Lahren and Milo and you know, all these other conservatives are getting targeted, now Bill O'Reilly got fired from Fox News. Well, Fox has been underway of the pornification of conservative media forever. Do you not see the women and the way they're dressed on Fox News? My God, I was like, what am I watching? This is like soft porn from the 80s or something. But anyways, Fox News fired Bill O'Reilly, the #1 conservative voice on cable news. Last but not least, my favorite, Alex Jones of InfoWars. Now, personally, I'm grateful to Alex. He woke me up. He woke up a lot of people with regards to vaccines, with regards to fluoride in the water, with regards to some of the specifics and how shadow government works in the deep state. So a lot of what Alex has said throughout the years, and I would argue an overwhelming majority of what he says is truth. But again, a failure, a lack of principles. He tears off his shirt all the time, and he was on this custody battle with his wife, and it came out in these custody battles that his wife said that he's, you know, mentally unstable, and that he went on air and said he wanted to break Alec Baldwin's neck, and he hopes that Jennifer Lopez would get raped. And was divorced recently, and I believe just lost custody of his children. So there's obviously a lot of personal turmoil in his life, and admitted just recently that by the time I was 16, I slept with at least 150 women. And as a result, Alex Jones is now getting sued by Chobani Yogurt. A lot of his hardcore followers have left him. I'm curious to know how much of his viewership has gone down. I know for once, my brother and some people that would listen to him have lost a lot of confidence in him. I've lost some confidence in him. Not some. I've lost quite a bit of confidence. And again, the reason I've lost confidence is not in his message, but in the fact that he's lost personal integrity. He's abandoned his principles. And that's the point of episode 10 today. And this is where I'm going to kind of leave things off. A lack of principles have tainted these people. So now their message and the movement that they were behind is in jeopardy. The left is not the epitome of moral high ground, obviously. The Democratic Party is the party of death. Let's just be honest. They want to kill you in the womb. They want to kill you if you're in jail. They want to kill you in war. They just want to kill. Okay, so the Democrats, the left, the progressives, whatever you want to call them, they are not the people of moral high ground. However, they take these opportunities, when their political opponents, those on the right, if you want to call them that, have moral failures, depart from their principles, they will go after them like a bullseye, and they will bring them down. So what's the point, guys? I'm speaking to myself, and I'm speaking to you who are listening, who are on the side of truth, who crave the truth, who will stand by the truth no matter the cost. When it's unpopular, be above reproach. And I'm speaking to myself, guys. Be above reproach. Bind your principles around your neck. Don't ever depart from your principles. Integrity is all that matters. I remember Godfather. I mean, of all movies, right? You know, with this recurring theme of just being a man of your word, or Scarface. You know, my word is my. You know how it goes, guys. But I mean, it's just like, I'm using really bad and crude examples, but you get my point, which is all you have in life are your principles and your integrity. Money will come and go. You know, people will come in and out of your life. You'll have good times, you'll have bad times, good days, bad days. Opportunities, times of prosperity, times of lack. The only thing that really has value, and the only thing that you'll ever be able to take to your grave when you stand before the Almighty is, you know, was I a person of principle? You know, and one thing, especially men, and I'm talking to the men now, one of the most valuable things that we have as men, and one thing that we should all aspire to, is being men of integrity and men of our word. We're the leaders of this society. Oh, I know that that may offend all the feminists. I apologize. Forgive me, Naomi Wolf. I apologize. But yes, men are the fathers. They're the leaders of the home. They're the heads of society. We're to take the lead. Doesn't mean that we're better, more important, or deserve privileges. No, it just means that leadership rests with us men. And if we're going to be the leaders, the only way people are going to follow us is if we're consistent, and if we walk the walk, and if we're men of integrity. And people look to us and say, I can trust that guy, and I can follow that guy because he's consistent. And I'll tell you three men in my life. My dad, Ron Paul, and Dr. Martin Luther King. My dad is a man of integrity. My whole life, he's always been consistent. I respect that. Dr. Ron Paul, a man who's been preaching the same message for over 30 plus years. He's been out of Congress now, consistent. Dr. Martin Luther King died for his principles. There's a day in the calendar named after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who happens to be the hero of Ron Paul. Principles, guys. Ask yourself today, what are your principles? What is it that you believe in? Or Dr. Martin Luther King, what is it that you would die for? Because until you find something that you're willing to die for, you're not fit to live. That's it. Episode 10, AaronLujan.com. It's May 1st, 1984. No, I'm just kidding. It's May 1st, 2017. This was Counterculture. Go to the website, AaronLujan.com. Episode 11, God willing, coming next week. Thank you, and God bless.